Alright, hello world. I'm going to be starting Android development tutorials, and there'll be short little tutorials on how to use some of the key aspects of the Android platform if you're new to Android. I do assume that you know Java. I'm not going to do a Java tutorial and explain what this syntax is or this. I assume you know Java. And I'm not going to go into very much depth, so to speak. We'll probably write some code, tell you what it does, explain a bit of it. And if you really want to get really in-depth and have really good explanations, I suggest you head on to developer.android.com. That'll be in the video description. And I really recommend that you turn on annotations in the event I forget to mention something or some helpful hints or anything that just came up or there's a new revision out or something. I really recommend you turn on annotations. And I also recommend that you watch my previous video on how to begin Android development. I have a video up on getting into Android development and getting your feet wet. And in that video you download and install the SDK, which is, you need that now. One thing I might have forgot to mention in the last video was to install the Eclipse ADT plugin, and you can do that by going to this URL, and then there's detailed instructions on how to install ADT plugin. You're going to need Eclipse. I use Eclipse for all its great IDE. And so, also on top of that, you're going to, let's just to be sure open this window to open the SDK manager. You're going to want to install SDK tools. And for the purposes of this tutorial, Android 4.1 is a must. I'm using that for this tutorial. You'll also need the Android support library and extras. There's a little bug with that I'll show you how to fix. And if you're really going into Android development, I really recommend that you try to open up your application to as many different screen sizes, densities, and versions. So, i.e. downloading all these everything back from Android 1.5. If you have your application downloading and working on that, you're good to go, because you have a far greater market than someone who restricts their applications to, like, say, ice cream sandwich and up. Alright, so after we've done that, there's a small, we can't actually get started yet since there's a small bug with the, anytime we do the new creation project with the new ADT revision 20 tools. So you're going to go into your Android SDK wherever you installed it, go into Extras, Android, and now the problem is whenever you try to create a new project with an action bar or just any new project, it'll ask you to download the support library, like you should have downloaded it from the SDK manager, but it'll look for it in support instead of where it's actually download, which is compatibility. So you want to create a new folder called support and just copy and paste from compatibility to support, and that should all be good. So after that's done, you would want to set up a new virtual device, unless you have a Jelly Bean device or you want to run it on ice cream sandwich or something. You're going to go to new, but I already have one up, so I'm just going to edit mine. Call it whatever you want. You can run, for this purpose of this tutorial, I'll be running on Android 4.1, or you can do Google APIs, whatever you choose. Change your size of the SD card. I just set mine, the minimum is 9 megabytes. I just set mine 500 just to be safe. For built-in, I would do either WVGA 800 or WVGA 854, which is the Galaxy Nexus skin, and then that should automatically populate hardware, and that should get you going. Alright, now let's get to the actual creating. Go to File, New, Other, and with the new revision tools, you now have Android application project. Go to Next. We'll call this, say, I don't know, second activity, because in this tutorial we're going to be, in the first tutorial I showed you how to create a single activity. Now I'm going to be showing you how to go from one activity to another activity. Alright, set build SDK, create custom launcher. Yeah, I'll just choose anything. Eventually, we want to create your own launcher, and then the launcher set should. Let's make this a better color. Nice, Android green. Good enough. Alright, you want to go to blank activity, which should. Now, master detail flow. I'll just explain a little bit. I'll explain a little bit about that. Master detail flow is mainly for tablet screens, where you'd have a list view on the left part of the tablet, and then on the right part of the tablet, when you select a list item, it would show you the details of the selected list item. But we don't really need that right now. For the sake of this, we're just going to do blank activity. We'll call this first activity. Layout should be done automatically. We don't need any navigation. I'll talk about navigation probably in another video. It has no hierarchical parent. I'm going to finish that, and it should create it. Alright, now that it's created, it should show you up with this. Now there is yet another bug, but I will talk to that in a minute. So, let's edit this a bit so we can make two activities, so that one activity will send a message to the other activity, which is called an intent. And in an intent, you can store like extra values, like Boolean values, double values, string values, and then that can be read by the other activity. So to demonstrate this, we will create a plain text field. See if I can align it. And then here's this nasty bug. Now we can fix this bug. I really hope it's fixed in the newer versions. We want to go to this raw XML, and you want to go into Android, then colon. Maybe it'll autocomplete. Okay, I have to do it manually. Input type equals text, no suggestions. That should fix it for now. Hopefully. Is it fixed? No, apparently not. Sorry about that. I seem to have misspelled input. Okay. Now it should fix it. Yay. Now I'll just drag this over here, and then because we're editing this XML, this will automatically be, the raw XML will automatically be edited based on this handy editing view. You can double click the tab here to enlarge it. Let's make this our Galaxy Nexus screen. And then let's add a button. A nice centered button. Alright. Now we want to change these IDs to a bit more. Change this to edit text. And let's change this. And the ID is simply the reference in Java source code, how you're going to reference this exact widget of sorts. Okay. And now after that we should, oops, bring that back down. Now, and you'll see warnings as this. Hard-coded string should be string resource. Let's fix that now. Right-click on the button. Go to edit text. Make sure you have project resources. Go to new string. Call this button. Call this send message. This will create a new string resource. String resources are used to localize certain strings to, like, say, a different language. Like right now, this is in English. If I was in like Spain or France, I would want this not to be in English, but in Spanish or French or whatever native language I was speaking in that said country. You should always localize your strings if you're planning on publishing an application to as many countries as possible. You want to send it off to a translator. Maybe you have a buddy that speaks the language natively. You could probably send it to a professional company that would do that kind of service. Alright, anyway, we have that all nice and set up. You can go ahead and save that using on a Mac, so command save. Now we'll expand this, and here's our actual source code. I'll give it a sec to, here we are. to actual source code here, and so we have a little warning here. Not sure, I guess we don't need that. If you see warning in the imports area, you can hit Command Shift O or Control Shift O, I believe, so Windows, and that should fix it. Alright, now we're going to need to create, this is where we get into actual code here, public void send message, which accepts and you want to autocomplete this, so on autocomplete it should be Control Spacebar. And you want to go to view. We'll be passing in a view as part, let's go call it view, and this will be called when the button is clicked. So let's go to here, just go into the XML, go to type in Android, on click, and we'll call it send message. Now you can, in the onCreate method, you could find the view of the button and then assign it the onClick listener, but this is a bit more simpler for our purposes here. So now we have this first activity. Let's create a second activity. So we're going to go to the same thing, file new, other, Android activity, like activity, next. I'm going to call this second activity. What the heck, we'll call this the hierarchical parent should be first activity. And what this will do is this will, you'll see this back thing, the up, I should say, it's more of an up. If you hit the up, then you'll go back, you'll be directed to the first activity. It's part of the action bar kind of thing. Go to next. And then that'll just tell you the things that'll be changed and everything. Go to finish. Alright, that's created. Let's just resize that. Here we are. Here's a text view. Let's assign it an ID. We'll call this text view. Okay. We don't want this text here, so what you can do is edit text. Clear it. Oh, here, let's try it this way. Outline, there should be a text field here. Set that blank. And the text view is still there, but it is not having any kind of text at all. So let's save that. Go to second activity. Here we are. Alright, now let's get to the actual, let's get to some coding, so to speak, right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start an intent. We're going to create an intent equals new intent. We're going to go with the context. In most cases, if your class extends activity, it'll be this. And then the class we want to is the name of the class we're going to launch. We want to launch second activity. Now, let's get the control, the text field thing where you can enter text is called an edit text. Let's just call it edit text equals, and just bear with me here. Oops. I'll explain this in a minute. Alright, so what we did here was this method, find view by ID, fetches a view based on the ID that we assigned in the XML file, and we set that to be edit text. So you would use the R file, which stands for resources. It's automatically generated. You have to just name it in you have to give the ID or something in your strings file or any sort of XML file, and then it'll automatically be present in the R file, and you can reference it as r.id if you're looking for the ID of something, r.string or r.array. And that really helps for localization instead of using hard-coded values. And then because edit text is a subclass of view, we want to make an edit text, not just a generic view. So now we'll create the string message equals the edit. Oops, got ahead of myself there. The text dot get text, which is in .editable, so we'll make that toString. And now we want to find the right one. Yeah. The name, we'll just identify the name here because the second activity will also need it. Public static final string extra message equals, and then the common convention is just to have the extra be the name of the package, and then caps of whatever we want to use, and that prevents other applications from having like the same. If you just set this as message, what if another application has the same thing as message? Then you'll get the wrong extra inputted, and that's just a mess. So we want to send this message, and then we're going to call this method called start activity, and just pass the intent object as the only parameter, I should say. Alright, this class is essentially set up here. Now what we're going to do in the second activity is in this, we're going to call get intent. Now what that method does, let me import. Now what this does is it gets the intent that caused this activity to be created, which was this exact intent. So we're passing on this intent to this activity when we call get intent. Alright, now let's get that message that we're going to display. Get string extra. We're going to call first activity.extra message, make sure it's the same, and there is our message. So let's get our text view the same way. Text view equals, and you can grab any view using this method, or I should say this concept. There we go, text view. There's a text view. Now we want to set the text of that text view to message. And we might as well make that text a little bigger. Oops, wrong with here. Set text. There we go. Let's set this to something like, say, 50. This will increase the text size, and there seems to be a plane flying overhead, so I apologize for that. Alright. Now that this is all set up, we have all the code set up and everything. Now we're going to go to run configurations, for target, and then automatically you can choose to just launch this running, and then that should cause it to, seem to have a problem here. This is a common issue that happens when we call getActionBar, and we set our minimum SDK to something that's not ICS, because like in Froyo Android 2.2 or Gingerbread Android 2.3, there was no such thing as an action bar. So we'll just set, for time being, you don't usually want to do this, but for now, for time being, let's just set the annotation target API 11, just for the sake of getting it to run. Now it should launch, and it'll start up the AVD, and I'll come back when it starts up, because the startup of Android virtual devices usually takes a while. Yeah, it'll give it a second to start up here. I seem to have chosen the wrong skin. You can usually just mess around with skins and define one that you seem suitable with. I'm just going to do that now, and I'll come back when the AVD is fully booted up. And you can install this on your own device. If you plug in your phone to the computer, then ADB should automatically detect that your device is if your device is compatible, it'll run the application on your device if it is compatible. Alright, I'll come back when it... Alright, one small thing I apparently didn't get right. If you want the skin, it should be WXGA720 for the skin like this Nexus S, or the, excuse me, Galaxy Nexus. Alright, so if you can see in the logcat here that it should start or in the console it'll start the activity, and the logcat holds a bunch of important information. It'll show essentially what it's a stack trace, but a bit more in depth and more centralized, so that you can see. I won't go into. I'll just briefly show you. It has a bunch of different information on tags. You can see it has GC stuff, and it's really helpful if you have if your application crashes. It'll tell you exactly why it crashed, and it'll give you the line number of the location where it crashed. Anyway, let's just send a message real quick. Hello world. Right. And when we click send message, you'll see hello world is displaying on the second activity. So you can see that the second activity got the intent and it displayed it in the text view. And then this is what I was talking about with the hierarchical parent, GUI, select that. It should go back to first activity. Alright, that's the first tutorial on how to create intents to go to other activities. I'll probably have more videos up maybe on like navigation, action bar navigation, if you want like tabs or a drop down. I might have one up on fragments, on how to implement them in a tablet size screen. I might have there's a bunch of different Android development tutorials that I would really like to do. So make sure you hit that subscribe button you see up there, and good night.